welcome. My name is Jess, and you're listening to Legaltini, your very own sip of law school. The goal of this podcast is to give you just a taste of what it's like going to law school. Whether you're already in school, considering it, have a loved one currently experiencing the fun that is law school, or you just want to follow my journey, I'm so glad you're here.
You can also follow me on Instagram at legaltini_podcast and check out my website, legaltini.com. And if you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to rate and review below.
Grab your Legaltini and let's take a sip. Hello! I'm so excited because I have been taking a break from recording podcasts during my final season, which just ended this last week, and I'm done. It's December. I get a little bit of a break. And so I'm really excited because I'm going to jump back into podcasting and get back to my weekly schedule of posting on Thursdays. It's so therapeutic for me, and it's just a really rewarding process. So I hope that, it's meaningful to you and that you're enjoying listening. But I am so excited because I'm back and I want to talk about finals because I have some hot takes and some thoughts, and I am just really excited. So here we go. We will jump right in. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about just some generic sort of scheduling, housekeeping style things, because these are some things I noticed during final season that I don't know, wasn't necessarily surprised by, but just kind of realized as I went along. Finals schedule is completely different than during the school year because you don't have class anymore. And so all of a sudden you just have these wide open days and you just have to study. And I don't know, maybe it's because I've been out of school for a while, but I kind of forgot about that. And so I was stressing, during the semester thinking, okay, I'm not going to have that much time to really focus on my studies during final season. But then honestly, you have a ton of time. Now, you might not have a number of days between or, before all of your finals start, but the day is just different because you don't have anywhere to be. You are in control of your day. And so you can really schedule and block out several hour chunks to devote to each subject. So just keep in mind that the schedule is very different than during the school year. During the school year, you barely have time to do all your reading and do all your stuff. Your days are packed during the semester, but now it's just kind of open. So keep that in mind and plan ahead for that. The other sort of generic thing I would say is have meal plans figured out, because you will be starving and you will have nothing in your fridge if you don't. And I am very lucky that I have a boyfriend that cooks for me. But if I didn't have that, I would probably have just starved, because you don't come up for air really during final season. And so if you don't have a plan and have some good essentials already bought and in your fridge, I would work on that, because meals are hard, because it's really hard to prioritize that and find the time. So make sure you've got some sort of a plan figured out for a quick meal that you weren't prepared, to eat. And then also I would say take breaks during finals, but also this is the time that you want to push. This is what we've been working towards. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is the time to push. So hopefully you've been working through, the semester on self-care and really taking breaks and really doing all of those things, so that right now is the time that you can just full steam ahead, devote everything that you have. Now, that still means you should be sleeping, you should be getting plenty of sleep, because that's great for your brain, and you should be taking breaks and taking, holiday time off and all of that. Do that, but also just push. This is the time to push hard and really buckle down and get all the content in that you can. And then the last sort of generic thing is just drink water and sleep, like I already mentioned, because your brain needs to be, it needs to have nutrition, and it needs to be supported in order to do all of the intense studying and test taking that you will be doing or have already done, maybe if you've already finished your finals. But I think we finish a little bit earlier than some of the other schools. So that's my generic housekeeping stuff, but I've got some hot takes about finals, and some things that maybe you anticipated and maybe you didn't. But my first hot take is that everybody started to get a little bit edgy right around finals. And I think I knew that and I was expecting that, but there was definitely this like kind of shift in the mood where suddenly everybody really wanted to talk about like how other people are doing in class and how like who like people started to sort of compare themselves to other people. And my advice for that is do not let other people bring you down that path. That is just not productive. It's not going to be helpful for you. It's not going to make you do better on your exams. There's just no real reason to do that. I think it's natural and I get it. I understand it, but avoid it. Just don't let people bring you down that path, because once you start down that, then you get further into imposter syndrome and it gets addictive and you kind of just become obsessed with it. So I would recommend just steer clear if people are exchanging grades about if you had any midterms or if you had any practice exams, things like that. I would just like stay out of the conversation. People are going to talk about it. People are going to speculate about it. People are going to ask you. I've been shocked by that this semester of how many people that I don't even know have just walked up to me and been like, so what'd you get? I'm like, well, my goodness. I don't know. So just my recommendation is don't even go there. Let it lie. Everybody's going to do how they're going to do. And it's, at the end of the day, do your very best, and that's what you can do. And on that note, I want to talk about like some sort of scholastic things that I've observed. I already talked about imposter syndrome, but that is a real thing. And, you have to remember that your very best is your very best. And you are here. There's a reason that you're here. You got into this school. You are part of this. You're meant to be here. You're meant to be learning this, and you're doing great, period. Like, that's just where you need to land with that. But imposter syndrome comes creeping in and you feel like maybe I'm not supposed to be here, or maybe it was a hoax that I got in. And believe me, those feelings run through everyone's minds. Like, every person in my law school that I have talked to about this is feeling the same way. They're experiencing those same feelings and emotions, and that's part of the law school experience and really just life experience. Is that, yeah, as you move into different sort of levels, you're going to feel this overwhelming feeling sometimes, but you're going to feel this sort of thing in the back of your mind that says like, but what if you can't? Like, what if it doesn't work? And what if it's not okay? And what if everybody thinks you're a failure? And those feelings and those emotions and voices in our heads, those are really normal. I just did an interview with someone that, I'll release the podcast here in a few weeks, but like, we talked about imposter syndrome because everyone experiences that, and she's a working attorney. Everyone still experiences those things. So if we can normalize that and we can make sure that everyone's aware that that's just a thing in the world that you're going to experience, then it becomes less scary. Another thing, sort of just like school-wise, is like I was mentioning, that your final schedule is very different than during the year because you don't have classes, you don't have any sort of anchors to build your schedule around. I would highly recommend developing a plan for your studying and not just aimlessly saying, oh yeah, I'm going to study for torts that day. I would develop something of like, okay, I'm going to do these practice problems. I'm going to do this practice writing exam. I'm going to go over these 3 topics, and then I'm going to review, this part of my outline, or however you want to schedule out your time is fine, but put something on paper or in your Google Calendar, however you schedule out your days, put something down as far as what you're going to do. Because for little blocks of time that I hadn't done that for, I felt very aimless, and that feeling makes you feel like you're wasting time because you're thinking about what should I do. So I would just recommend having a full-blown schedule of every day of studying that you have for exams and what you're going to be doing, not down to the minute necessarily, but certainly by like the hour block or the half-hour block. Figure out exactly what you're going to do ahead of time so that you can be really effective in your studying and not just sort of like waffle through and think, oh, maybe I'll do this. Oh, no, maybe it's better to do this. And then once you have a plan, you can know while you're working on something that this is the priority right now. Because if you don't, then you think, oh my gosh, am I going to get through all of these topics? But if you say, okay, I'm going to study 5 topics at each day, or I'm going to really hone in on, torts this day and civil procedure this day, then you have a plan and you can kind of trust that plan. And you're not going to then be stressing about whether or not you're going to get to everything or have everything on your schedule to study. But be realistic also with that, because if you are behind and you don't have your outline done or something like that, then you really need to be realistic with how deeply you can study each topic and how in depth you can really get. Because if you're behind, then you need to kind of spread out and prioritize the topics that you study, versus if you are really ready to go and you have your outline prepared, which I would obviously recommend you have that done by the last day of class. If you have that, then you're going to be in really good shape to be able to study and be very prepared for your exams. And also the last thing I would say kind of scholastically is that it's a lot harder to study at the end of the semester for everything than it was during the year. Because when you're studying and reading and kind of mastering different topics during the year, you can focus on, okay, I'm learning defamation right now or something like that. Like you can kind of be in a specific niche of an area of law. But when you are in finals and you're studying for all of your classes and you're studying the entire semester's worth of content, it's very overwhelming. Like your sponge is full, if that makes sense. Like it's very hard to absorb new information and really master things. So that's why it's very important during the semester to really be, for sure outlining and synthesizing everything that you're learning and everything that you are adding to your repertoire. You have to kind of be mastering it as you go so that it truly is a review once you get to the end of the semester. It's just a little bit more challenging because you are overwhelmed by just the sheer volume of information that you have to review for each class. Okay, my next hot take is that finals is part of the learning experience. Preparing for finals is part of the learning process. So I make mental notes, and honestly, I jot them down because you know me, I love lists. But make a mental note of what you are wishing during your final season that you would have done during the semester, so that next semester you can improve and you can continue to get better at what you're doing, because this is part of that process. And if you just view finals as like this thing you have to go through and don't remember that you have to do this again and prepare again and be in the same boat again, then it's harder to really improve and kind of set yourself up for better success next time if you're not considering that right now. So if you've gone through finals already, or if you're about to, in the middle of it, wherever you are, jot down some notes about like, I wish I would have made these flow charts as I went along, or I wish that I would have compiled my outline in a different way. One of my friends in school was using OneNote and then realized that she had to print out her outline for the class, and she wasn't allowed to use her computer and use OneNote, and OneNote doesn't really let you print very well, and so she had to adapt all of her notes from OneNote into a Word document, and it was this whole thing. Anyway, so now she's like, well, I'm never using OneNote again because that was just such a hassle and it took so much time. So things like that are just even sort of technical, just make note of it and make changes so that next semester or your next round of testing, you're in a better position.
Overall, I think what I want to really relay about final season is that it was very different than the regular semester, just time-wise, effort-wise, all of, just kind of everything that goes into it was different and harder. And as someone who felt like the semester was really manageable just because time management is really key, and, having a non-traditional background, I think has benefited me a lot this semester in being able to really manage my expectations and know what it means to really work long hours and work hard. I'm sort of used to that from healthcare and my job, and honestly, the experiences that I had during COVID. It was less of an adjustment for me in adapting to this kind of rigorous style of work, but final season was different. It was just much more stress on yourself because you're not being guided through anything and being told what to study and what to read each day. You have to plan for that, and I think that kind of pressure is just different than the regular semester. And I learned that I needed a lot of support from my family, from my boyfriend, from the people that I lean on. And I think if I had been in a worse place during the semester, it would have been way harder, even though it was super hard during finals. So I don't know if that makes sense, but point being, it's harder during finals. Lean on the support that you have and do the work during the semester so that you are prepared and ready to go for final season. You should plan to have your outline complete by your last day of class so that your final studying is purely studying what you have already reviewed and you've already synthesized into your outline. So if I had not done that, if I had just kind of been lax about writing my outline during the semester, my final season would have been even more stressful and less successful because it would have really taken a lot of effort to complete the outline, because it does take a long time and it takes effort if you're doing it right. If I hadn't done that, I think that my final season would have been really unmanageable, and it was already like right on the cusp. It was very hard, but manageable. I was able to complete it. I was able to study all of the content. So those are a few of my hot takes from final season and kind of the end of the semester wrap up. Overall, I just overwhelmingly feel grateful and feel like I can't believe I'm in law school. I can't believe I have this opportunity. I get to do this. I'm thrilled to be here, honestly. And I think having that attitude instead of this mindset of this is so hard, this is so awful, has really served me well over the semester. And I can see a difference in experience between, me and some of my other classmates that view it as this really hard thing and this really stressful thing. But for me, the mindset is so key. And when I, think about school and think about it as an opportunity to grow and learn, it's less awful. I don't know, it's less stressful. It's less of a this is so impossible and more of wow, what a challenge. I'm so glad that I get to be here and have this opportunity and kind of honestly see the bright side, I guess, or see the positives in my experience. So that's everything that I have for this week's podcast. Again, I'm so excited to get back into this and start sharing some more about my law school experience. Thanks so much for listening. This is Legaltini, your very own sip of law school.